Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday meditation gathering. I'm so glad you're all here to share this time together. This week we have Emily Bennington. She works closely with Robert Perry at the Circle of Atonement. This week we're going to meditate for 20 minutes after Emily finishes, and then we'll open it up for sharing, and we end at 10:45. Over to you, Emily.
Thank you, Dan. And thank you all so much for having me. I'm happy to be here, and I'm sorry that I couldn't join you last month. I was supposed to do this in August, but I changed a flight. I was coming into England, actually. I couldn't make it, and Robert was kind enough to fill in. I like having him around for that. So this means this is my first meditation gathering with you, and I'm excited to be here. Robert and I teach together quite often, as Dan mentioned, and what I'd like to do today is to briefly share with you a topic that we keep meaning to do a podcast or a workshop on, and that is goals. The course has some remarkable things to say on goals, and so I want to take just a few minutes to give you one angle on this topic, and then you can meditate on it in our quiet time if you like. For those of you who are in the workbook of the course on the calendar year schedule, you know that yesterday's lesson rather was 256. God is the only goal I have today. And it's interesting to think of God as the only goal we have, because there are obviously so many other competing goals within our mind. When we think of goals, we tend to think of achievements and milestones along the physical journey. We want to graduate, we want to get a job, we want to have a house, raise a family, preserve our health for as long as we can. And when we do go, we hope to have a few nice things to pass on to the ones we love. This journey, the physical journey, is the one that we think that we're on here, because it's the journey that's culturally supported, and it's the journey that feels real to our body. But we also get confused on this idea because in contemporary spirituality, goals aren't as well supported. We tend to think that goals are about being driven, and drive is of the ego. But the course is very positive on being driven, and the course is very positive on goals. It just wants us to be driven towards the right goals. And from a course perspective, these are the things that further our journey home to God. And this is really important to note, because often we think that if we achieve the goals of the physical journey, which is to say the goals of the world, then the spiritual goals will take care of themselves, but it's actually the other way around. It's when we make our lives about the spiritual journey and spiritual goals that the physical journey tends to take care of itself. The Song of Prayer supplement says that we pray for the song of God's love, and the echoes come too. And what the supplement means by that is the echoes are the form of the things that we need in this life. So we don't pray for echoes, we pray for the song of God's love, and the echoes come. And so when we make our goals God's goals, and when we make our lives about the spiritual journey versus the physical one, this means, are we expressing love? Are we a healing presence in the world? Are we asking for and following guidance? Are we kind to others and perceiving the holiness, equality, and worth in them? And of course, as course students, we all know that the biggest of all is, are we forgiving? Lesson 226 begins with the lines, "The way to God is through forgiveness here. There is no other way." An interesting idea that there is no other way to God than the goal of forgiveness. And so as we enter into our meditation, I invite you to consider what you have made your life about so far. Are you on a physical journey related to the comfort and the pleasure of the body, or are you on a spiritual journey with God that will lead you home to God? So we'll take 20 minutes and end with a bell and an amen.
Open your eyes slowly and come back into the room. We have 18 minutes left for sharing your reflections and your questions. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand, or you can use the reactions button at the bottom of the screen, and I'll invite you to take yourself off of mute. And if you'd like to ask Emily a question or comment with confidentiality, put your message in the chat function at the bottom of the screen, and I'll read it out. Jim, take yourself off mute.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Emily. It was good to be addressed to, or given the subject of goals, because it showed me in the meditation that one of my main goals is stability. And of course, in this country, we've been mourning the Queen, and lots of people have been speaking about how they felt that something stable had left their lives. And I've been working for some time now with a long-standing resistance to any change. And of course, this is something that is very much of the ego. And the only stability is what we find in practices like meditation. It's not only meditation, but in meditation, we're reminded of that which is only that which is stable, that deep peace underlying everything, whatever happens in the world. There's that deep sense of being that underlies everything. And things were coming up for me. I mean, over the past 10 or so years, we've all had lots of changes in our lives. There have been things like financial crises, lockdowns, all of which we've had to face. And I think it is a period when we're being directed to that which never changes, that which is truly stable. And so when you use the word goal, it just showed me that one of my goals is this peace and this stability. And I actually tend to put those together, peace and stability. But of course, they don't, in terms of the world, there is no stability. And if I look for stability in the world, I will never have peace. The only peace is to go beyond that which, or to that which is stable, and beyond that which is beyond any changes in the world. So it was interesting, just interesting to look at goals and see what came up in the meditation, all sorts of things which I rely on or think I rely on to keep me safe in a way, which in fact don't keep me safe, but just keep me in the dream. So thank you, Emily.
Thank you, James. I love that. I love that. If I look to the world for stability, I'll never find peace. Yeah, it's true. It's very true. I often think of the section, I need do nothing, because so many course students think that I need do nothing is okay. I just need to do nothing in the world and view it as an illusion, and that's what's going to bring me peace. And what the section says is it's from the quiet center that I go out on busy doings on which I am sent. And so Robert and I are always struck by the idea that the whole package is there. It's the quiet center of the peace within us that the Holy Spirit and God planted in us, that we go out into the world on our busy doings. So we're doing things in the world on which we are sent, which means we're asking for guidance and being told what to do in the world. And so I love the idea that it's from that quiet center that we can handle whatever happens in the world. And because it's the quiet center that we look to for our peace.
Would like to share? Norman, take yourself off mute.
Yes, thank you very much, Emily. And just the first line in that lesson, the goal is forgiveness. And when I got up this morning, there was a few little things irking me, and I normally when I just open the book, it appears, and lo and behold, forgiveness is everything. It offers me everything I want, and I wasn't going to look at that. I was going to wait until this started. But it's from that combination. There were very small things that were irking me, but they were making me lose my peace. But I couldn't understand why. And I understand now that even though it's small to me, I would just say, oh, well, that doesn't matter. That's only a wee thing that'll go away. But if I do that with little things, if I don't attend to them, you know, the big things, I lose it by not attending to the wee things. So thank you very much indeed for putting me back in my path, or reinforcing it, I should say. It's so easy just to let the wee bits go and lose it.
Yeah, I hear you. I woke up this morning too, very bothered by a few things, one of which isn't so little, and many of them are. And it's same thing, Norman. I woke up and I try and wake up with the be in my mind, my Father throughout the day. But instead I woke up with these things that are irritating me. And I realized how easy it is to say you're on a path of love and how hard it is to actually do it day in, day out. And what I've found has helped me is not to say, okay, well, it's just a little thing, I'm going to let it go because it's a little thing, but instead to say, I'm a student and a teacher of divine love. And that means that my devotion needs to be to divine love. I'm going to make my life about divine love. And that ties into what I was saying is, what journey are you on? Are you on the journey of making your body comfortable? Or are you on the spiritual journey? If you're on the spiritual journey, your life is about a dedication to God's love in the world. And all the little things should bounce off of that, not the other way around, right? And sometimes it's all of God's love that bounces off the irritations that we have. And so I personally find it helpful to say, I am here for divine love. And then the little things do tend to dissolve around that.
Thank you.
Would like to share. Sandy, take yourself off mute.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah, so it reminded me straight away that I'm often not putting God as my goal, that it's the other way around, how often we live our life with everything topsy-turvy. And in the meditation, I kept asking, you know, that God be my only goal, and that, you know, that love and peace and joy. And as I'm doing that, my neighbour has a gardener on a Wednesday, and it has a big petrol mower, comes right up outside my window here. And for once I was just thinking, I'm at one with this person. I'm not going to fight or try and block that, which I'm usually quite good in meditation. Today I invited it in as a part of God, that this is my brother. And how it suddenly changed, the motor sort of became more like a melody, and it became a part of it. And it was really, really beautiful to suddenly see that I forgive myself for this projection, you know, this ego bit that's trying to get me away from my peace and my balance. And as soon as I was doing that, it just became so peaceful and so loving. So that was a really beautiful meditation. Thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Yeah, I used to be a mindfulness teacher before I became a course teacher, although I would teach course principles and call them mindfulness. I just didn't tell anyone. But one thing that I learned in mindfulness is that the goal is the empty mind. And we had a very similar experience to yours, where we were all meditating in the room one day and there was a blower outside, and the the guy who was leading the meditation, it was a mindfulness meditation, was like, if you can disregard the blower, then you know you're there. And I've always remembered that. But when I came to the course, it was like, the goal of my meditation is God. And so when I meditate, I think God is my only word, my only goal, my only love. This is from 183, lesson 183. And all I'm trying to do in my meditation is take that idea of God as the only word and expand it to infinity, so that that becomes the only thing in my mind. So in other words, the goal isn't emptiness, the goal is an expansion of God. And it just makes meditation so much richer and fuller.
Teresa, take yourself off mute.
Thank you. Emily, thank you so much. That was lovely. Really lovely to see you, and welcome. And I wrote down something you said because I enjoyed it. Don't pray for the echoes. Pray for the song. I just think that is wonderful. So often, you know, we get it the other way round. And as Jim was saying, Queen Elizabeth has recently died, and they're going to leave the palace today, and the royal family are going to be walking behind her, behind the hearse. And so that's been very much at the forefront of my mind. And you know, there is a sadness that I feel, and but during meditation, I was able to, well, firstly, I did a meditation earlier and some writing, and I realized that something like my own mother just had a handful of people at her funeral, and the Queen has got thousands and millions, and so it's not so much that I'm comparing and despairing, but I am just thinking in my meditation that you know, the deep sadness, which is the Queen can bring, any death can actually bring up, is really the sadness for that separation from love originally, that feeling of separating and losing love. And so I got back in tune with what's going on today, and I just thought, well, I know my mom and all the mothers, and the Queen's husband and her mother, you know, it's all just one love that's going to be greeting her. So I just felt that the whole procession today, all the royal family and the Queen is all, and all the people that are going to be there, I just sort of felt the light of love surrounding them. And that's the true home. That's the true goal. It's not all out there so much. But I have to keep reminding myself. So thank you so much. It's lovely to see you, and thank you.
Yeah, it's lovely to be here. I love the idea in the course that only loving thoughts are true, and that at the end of the day, at the end of our lives, we'll realize that even in the relationships that ended, some of them end very badly, the only thing that is preserved is the love, and everything else is illusion. And what a beautiful idea, that no matter who you have been in relationship with, I mean, all of us, we're all old enough to have lost great relationships in our lives, great loves, and friendships and whatnot. And it's so helpful to think that only the loving thoughts were true. It's the only thing that remains, and everything else is illusion. It personally, I lost a dear friend recently, and it's helpful. She didn't die, she's still around, we're just not friends. And it's just helpful for me to look back on that and think all the love that we shared is the only thing that's real, and it remains. even now. And the Queen had a great life. We should all be so lucky. I mean, 96 and had a Prince Philip long marriage, and he just died last year, so she didn't have to spend too much time away from her husband and wonderful family and the love of their country and the world. Sounds like a charmed life to me.
Who'd like to share? Catherine, take yourself off mute.
Thank you, Emily. That was lovely. And thank you for all the shares from people. It's felt very rich. And one thing that's coming up for me at the moment is that the ways in which my ego can actually be derailed by A Course in Miracles into kind of, I'm doing it wrong, which is kind of just more ego. And what I'm hearing in all the shares is that kind of opportunity for a reframe. So Jim started by saying it almost felt like there was a little bit of telling himself off, you know, I'm looking for stability in the world. And what I heard is the call for love, that by looking for it in the world, that brings him back to look for it in God. So how wonderful. And Teresa naming that we lose people and we feel sadness, again, that's a call for love. Like the very connection we felt with them is an echo of our connection with God. So it's all an invitation. So yeah, I'm just feeling the power of that right now. Thank you.
I love the line in the Course. Gosh, Robert is the encyclopedia, but but it goes something like, those who attack are poor, their poverty asks for gifts. And what it means is spiritually poor. Those who attack are spiritually poor, or they wouldn't attack. And so their poverty asks for gifts, and that's the gift of our love in response to their attack. And I think Jesus is the ultimate model of that. You know, he was able to respond to attack right up into the very end of his life. And so what you've shared, Catherine, is just a reminder to me that it's all a call for love. Whether someone is loving you, the natural response is to love in return, or if they're attacking you, the response is love in return. And that's the hard part, obviously. But if we can think of everything as a call to love, then we become more willing to be that ambassador of love. And what I love about the Course is, as I've been saying, nothing else is real. You know, nothing real can be threatened, nothing else exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Only love is real. Therefore, everything is love, or it doesn't exist.
Okay, we've come to the end of our meditation. Thank you, Emily. That was wonderful. Thank you for leading us today. Take yourself off of mute and express your appreciation to Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
That was
Thank you, Emily.
beautiful.
Thank you, Emily. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much.
There at 5 a.m.
Emily.
Everyone. Oh yeah, 5 a.m.
I'm up now. I gotta stay up. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Lots of love, everyone.
I'll see you next week.